Hello, everyone. Welcome to Nails and Beauty Talk. I am your host, Asia the Bird. Today, I have a very special guest with me today. She is a world-renowned and award-winning nail artist. She's an educator, nail judge, businesswoman, and distributor. Please welcome Miss Hazel Dixon. Hello, Hazel. Welcome to the show.
Hello, how are you?
Good. I'm doing well. I'm doing very well. I want to get into the beginning. So, how did you get into the realm of beauty? And also, how did you grow up? Like, how did you get into the realm of the nail industry?
Mine's probably very different to a lot of people. So growing up, my dad was a car mechanic,
Mm-hmm.
and my mum was a receptionist at the local doctors.
Mm.
And before that, they actually lived in California for 15 years. And
Mm.
they emigrated out to America. And they had my two older siblings, and me and my little sister were an afterthought. It wasn't until they come back to the UK, because my granddad was not very well, and
Mm.
then they decided to come back for good, that then they decided to have two more kids. So
Mm.
sort of growing up, my dad worked 16 hours a day with his own business. He worked very hard. My
Mm.
mum looked after us kids and did a part-time job in the evenings. And my mum wasn't into beauty or nails or hair or anything. We were very much brought up with Christian values.
Mm.
Um, and we had to go to church on Sunday. That will shock a lot of people when they watch this.
Mm.
um, but that's how, for many, many years, that's how we grew up. So yeah, makeup wasn't really a thing, colouring our hair, even having our ears pierced, we weren't allowed. So quite strict, actually.
Mm.
So I rebelled at the age of 16. um, and that was when I kind of found hair and makeup and the beauty side of it. And that's kind of like sparked an interest. And I remember going and having my nails done at a local salon. And I was watching her and I was like, this isn't that hard. I could do that. Yeah, I got a shock many years down the line.
Uh-huh.
But yeah, there wasn't many nail bars where I lived. There was literally that one, and that was kind of done on the side. It wasn't really a big thing, nails. And then there was one other lady that worked in our town, and she was very well known for the airbrushing. She was very, very good at it. But then things happened and I found a man, had 3 children quite young. So I was pregnant at 20, and it snowballed from there till I was about 25 and just had all these children. And that's when I started looking. And actually, I always wanted to do hair originally, but I've always been interested in art and interior. Like, my husband will say he'll come home from work and I would have redecorated the whole living room and it'd look completely different by the time we got back. So that creative side has always been there. My mum tried to encourage me to go to college and all of that, and I just didn't want to. I wanted to go out and rebel, I think, from all the strictness that we had growing up. But that soon faded away, and it wasn't until I had my 3rd child that I realised I need to do something with this, because, being a mum is amazing. And I loved being a stay-at-home mum and all of that. But I needed something now for me going forward. And that's when I started to look and realised that it wasn't going to be as easy as I thought. So, yeah, that's kind of a little bit about that. And hair just wasn't an option for me. I had 3 young children. Nobody in their right mind would help me look after 3 young kids under the age of 5. And I don't blame them. And the funds and the money just weren't there. When you're bringing up 3 kids with just their dad working and I was staying at home, we didn't have the funds available. So doing a short course in nails was my other option. And like I say, I was like, it's not going to be that difficult. I could do this. And boy, did I get a shock when I did my first course. absolutely. It's not as easy as what people make it look.
Mm-hmm. So also, like, have you had anybody that really pushed you to get into the realm of nails, like more into the artistry of it?
No, I think it was, I think where I was so creative, the
Mm-hmm.
nails is more, I love the architecture of nails, and that's why I love extreme nails. Like, that is really my thing. I love it because there's the lines of a nail and the structure of it really appeal to me. So I think, like, my creativity side, it was like how far I could push my products to do something that they probably shouldn't do.
Mm-hmm.
And that kind of sparked that creativity, and where I wasn't now doing painting the walls and pictures for the house, I was like, can I do this on a tiny canvas? And I think I love the challenge. And I think that's why I love competing. I do like a challenge. So I was like, let's see if we could do this. And that's when I started then looking specifically for other nail artists to, you know, aspire to be and want to do their work. And that's when I started to look around and think, oh, there's actually a lot of this out there. Not so much in the UK at the time, but globally, there's a lot of amazing nail artists out there, and how they do what they do, some of them, is mind-blowing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I definitely agree with that. Like, you see a lot of nail artists around the world, like around like Asia, Europe, and especially where I live at here in the States. You know, I'm very inspired by Vic Simmons and Catherine Wong, Koska Bojana, who is a really great nail artist. Her artwork is so great. Like, is there anybody like who's like your favorite nail artist?
My ultimate favorite is Barbara Uvari. She was one of the ones that it took a couple of years, because we didn't have Facebook and Instagram when I started. We're talking 16 years ago. It was only just starting to come around. So to find somebody, you had to see them in a magazine or on a website or at a show. And it was actually the brand Crystal Nails where I first see her. And it's just mind-blowing. Her and her sister, because they're twins, her and Christina Uvari, they're just like, what she can do just blew my mind. And then I started looking at others, and Anita Padova, Lilia Seredenskia, I can't pronounce her last name. It's the fine art that they do, and they do it so well. And I was like, I want to learn from these people. And that's what set me on my path, really, you know, after that. And the fantasy that Catherine Wong did, I was like, wow.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's where I started going down that route of that, because it was an escape for me. You know, I had 3 young children. As soon as I could get them in bed, it was my time to sit and play and do stuff. And with fantasy and nail art, you don't have to have a human being there to do it. So it was good for me to be able to then go in my little room and sit and play and practice all the stuff that I'd learned.
Yeah, same. My inspiration was Lilia Seredskaya too. You know, her work is amazing. And I first started getting into nails around like my teenage years, like my mid-teens. So yeah, my dad asked me like, hey, what do you want to do as a career? And I was like, I want to do nails. And he said, you know, if this is something that you want to do, be the best at it. So, you know, I love the artistry of nails. It's amazing of how much stuff you can do with nails, and so many different types of structures, you know, you can build, you know, as a nail. It's really, really amazing. Now, I want to talk about salon business. So you have your salon called Purely Nails.
Yes.
What was the whole story behind your salon, and what tips and advice could you give for someone who wants to own their own salon?
Okay, so I actually started doing nails from my dining room table in my house. And it wasn't practical. It wasn't the easiest. I remember it's just this tiny little table trying to do these nails. My biggest advice to people is not to jump straight in, if I'm being completely honest. My advice is to build it slowly and I'm very much my saying, and everyone always laughs at me, is the tortoise, not the hare. That's my saying, is have a good foundation and build upon it, rather than trying to have a rocky foundation that when you get to the top, it might all collapse. And I think experience is one thing. And I found for me that starting off at home, then I expanded and converted like part of our garage to work from, and built up my clientele and my skill level, you know, bit by bit. Then I went from there and rented a space in a hairdresser's to build up more clientele. Then I ended up renting the room above the hairdressers, and it was pretty much year on year we expanded. But that experience that I gained through them 4 or 5 years before I finally had my own shop and my own salon, you know, I couldn't have done it without that. You know, going from just doing a course to open up a salon straight away, there's so much involved in the boring side of the business, unfortunately, like health and safety, risk assessments, cosh, you know, accounts and money and stock and all that boring stuff that when it's just you working on your own from home, it's not really that prevalent. But as soon as you start opening up a salon, you've got other people working for you or renting space from you. You have to be on the ball and know what's right, what's wrong, and how to deal with it. And still, even now, I'm not particularly great at saying no to people or being a boss. I find it quite difficult. That's probably one of my biggest downfalls. I have got better, but I'm not a great boss in that sense. I'm like, oh, it's okay, don't worry about it, I'll sort it out. Yeah, but that's probably my best advice, would be to really know what you're doing and do your research and make sure that you're doing it right, especially now. You know, I know in the UK we're having so many problems with allergies and products and lots of other different things. And if you don't know what you're talking about, or what the products you're using, or whether you can trust the company that you're working with, it can have a huge impact on your salon and your reputation.
Right.
So, yeah, I think that would probably be my biggest advice, is do your research and make sure you know what you're doing before you jump straight in. Because it's not easy. And that's not me trying to put anyone off at all, but it can be quite difficult working with a lot of women. I think so.
Yeah, most definitely. I think doing research and getting into like the ins and outs of having a successful salon business is very important. And I wanted to ask, and pertain to with salon success, like how important is nail care and skincare? Like how important is prepping the nails? How important is taking care of the cuticle, so that way for the client, the nails are long lasting, whether it's gel polish or acrylic or gel? Like how important is that?
Massively important part. And I do think that it gets lost a lot at the moment, because there's so much about the art and the design and that type of side of it, that a lot of people forget about the care of the natural nail and the skin and the preparation and the structure of the nail that they're building, to make sure that's the most important part. That needs to last and be looked after. Otherwise, whatever you throw on top, that's not going to last if the underneath isn't a good foundation. And I think a lot of that has got forgotten about, you know. And and I get it, because it's social media, because we all love an instant gratification. We all want these beautiful images to use, and nail art will do that. It will grab people's attention and bring them to your page and all of that. But I think, you know, there needs to be a little bit more back to basics. Let's get back to, you know, making sure the nails prepped correctly, making sure you're looking after the cuticle and the skin and all of that, and you won't have a lot of these problems. You know, and it makes your life as a nail technician so much easier when they come back for infills. If you've got no lifting, you've got, you know, nice skin surrounding, it makes your life easier in the long run. If you've got clients coming back with loads of lifting and breakages and dry, rough skin that's split, it's going to make your life a lot harder. You'll spend double the amount of time with that client, so you're not really doing yourself any favor in the long run. So yeah, that's a core part of what we teach when we teach with my education program, is we really try and get them to focus on that first. But you do get some students that are just so enthusiastic about the art, and you're like, yeah, let's just hold on, rein it back. I get it, because I'm an art lover, I really am. But we need to get you to do the basics first and really understand the structure of the nail and how it grows, and all of that is so important. Right. I think, yeah.
Yeah, I definitely agree, because I think it's easy to focus on, like how you said, like the artistry side of it, and not focus so much on the foundation. And the foundation is very important before you do anything else. So, you know, I think that's very, very important. Nail prep is very important, and it's very critical of how long like the nails last, the polish lasts, how the gel or acrylic extension lasts. So that's very, very important. Now, in terms of the nail industry or the beauty industry as a whole, is there a huge difference between the US and the UK, or is there some similarities?
From my experience, I would say there's some huge differences in trends and popularities and in systems, like nail systems. But then I think with social media, again, you know, more of late, you start to see some more similarities, because everyone's now able to see what everyone else is doing globally, whereas before we was never able to. It's only if we see it in a magazine. So I've been very, very lucky, not this last year, which is very sad. I had 4 trips planned to the US last year, and I had to cancel all of them, so I haven't been for a year. But before that, I've been quite a lot with comps and shows and different bits and pieces. And I actually found the Americans really welcoming, and I love you guys. I'm not gonna lie, like, you've been really, really kind to me. So I would say with regards to nails, I think that there are very different style in maybe shape and structure, is, I think, compared to probably Europe. Like, I see a difference in that, in what people like more than anything. But there's a lot of trends actually come from the US, from a lot of the influencers that start here. But then equally, there's a lot of trends from Eastern Europe that come here. I think the UK, I feel for us in the UK, we're quite lucky. We get both. And I suppose it really does depend on your style as well. Like for me, most people will say they can tell that they're my nails, so I've got a certain style that I do. I don't know if that answers your question or not. I'm not sure.
Yeah, that answers the question. I think there's like differences too between the US and the UK. I think it's like more and more products in the UK than it is in the US. You know, especially around Europe, like you have like different gels, different art gels and things of that nature. And speaking of that, like you have your own business where you distribute for different nail brands such as Akzentz, and also you have your own line of products. It's called Hazel Dixon Professional Nail Systems, and you sell different acrylics, gels, and things of that nature. So how important is distribution, and what is distribution for someone who doesn't know?
Okay, so distribution is where a certain company would go into a contract with a brand. Usually it's either exclusive or non-exclusive. So I have an exclusive contract with Akzentz that I'm the UK distributor. So I import their products and I sell them on the UK market, kind of on their behalf, but under my own business, and represent their brand, which is how I got started in the whole nail products thing. But Akzentz are a gel only brand. They don't do acrylics, they don't do nail art stuff and things like that. So I started my own brand initially to fill that gap for my customers. Right. And it's kind of just exploded from there, really. I don't know how I ended up doing all of this. I said that the other day. I was like, well, how did I do all of this stuff? But I find it quite intriguing. So yeah, and then I've just now got Gina Silvestro in America. She's now took on the HD professional brand in America and is distributing there. But what it does for a lot of people is it makes them products more accessible and affordable, because a lot of people in America are buying direct from me in the UK, and the shipping costs, you know, just for a handful of items, and customs and border checks and the paperwork, it can be quite a headache for an individual person or even a salon. So to have a distributor in another country is actually really important for a brand, because it now means in America, everybody has access to it easily. You know, they can order and have it within a couple of days, whereas normally it would take a week, maybe 10 days from me. And they have that port of call as well. So anyone in the UK who buys Akzentz, they can come to me and ask me questions. They can get education, which is really important for me. And they can learn how to use the products. Whereas if you don't have access to that, it can be quite difficult to understand how to use the products properly, you know, and where to go for customer service. So if they're in a completely another part of the world, it can be quite difficult. So having distributors is actually quite important, I'd say, for different brands.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I definitely agree. I think understanding like what brands to distribute with also too, and plus doing research too, that's very important also. And I want to talk about the classes you offer. So you also have your nail academy, and you offer different types of classes. There's like nail structure, salon design, and other classes. So what classes do you currently offer, and how can people get access to them?
So we currently under the Hazel Dixon Academy, because I set that up first before I started selling brands and products, and because it was my passion, I really wanted to get good education out in the UK. Because we don't have specific regulations or licensing for nails here, it can be quite difficult. We have like a government recognized qualification, but it's only been the last probably 20 years that it's even been available in colleges. So it's quite difficult to have access to. Even my local colleges, there's not only one, I think, in my whole area that even offers a nail technology qualification. And this is where the private companies and brands kind of stepped up and filled that gap, because you don't have to have a license, which sounds quite scary when you say it out loud, because it means that, which is what we're going through at the moment, is part of it, you know, is the lack of good education and teachers that know the facts and know what to teach. So we have currently getting on for nearly 100 different courses, which is crazy. But we do, you know, there's a big chunk of them are for Akzentz specific. We've got the HD Pro brand specific. We've got a class that we teach for Cooper on behalf of Cooper Refiles as well. And then the rest are generic classes. So anybody, which I think is really important, because a lot of education in the UK has always been linked to a specific brand. I don't know what it's like in the US, but here it's always been linked to a brand. And I found when I was doing my training that I wanted to learn the techniques and I wanted to do the class, but I didn't want to have to buy £100 kit for that product when I loved the product that I was already using. So that's why I set out and did what I did with my classes, was so that it didn't matter what brand you were using, within reason, as long as it's professional and legal. You can come on our classes and we will show you the techniques. All of my educators are handpicked, and I know they've all got a huge amount of experience with lots of different brands and many years in the industry, which is, again, very important. So when people come, they don't have to worry about, people think I'm crazy because I've got my own brand and I sell my own products. They're like, but why are you not selling your brand on the class? And I was like, for me, and I know this is going to be controversial, but I don't, yes, there's a connection to a certain point, but I can still show someone how to do one stroke with several different brands. I don't have to push my brand on someone to show them a technique and a skill. And it's the same with building a nail. And for me, they're two different things. But they're not for a lot of other people. So that's where, I mean, I'm quite controversial in that sense, because I believe in good education, facts, and instructing, teaching, all of that. It shouldn't matter what brand you use. For me, I'm teaching you a skill and how to do it correctly. There are the elements of every brand has, a slightly different way they might teach it. With regards to some companies, they won't ever teach tip and overlay. They only ever teach you sculpt with a form because they believe that that's the best way. We teach both. So people have a choice. And that's what I want to do for people, is give them lots of different skills and different techniques rather than pushing on them my way.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I want to talk about nail judging. So you judge different nail competitions. So what's the whole experience like being a nail judge, and what stands out to you when you judge different categories of nails?
Do you know what? Being a judge is so rewarding and I love it. But equally, I also feel a massive sense of pressure because I've been the other side as a competitor. And what the judges give you as a score can make a huge impact on that competitor. And I'm well aware of that because obviously I've been the other side for a long, long time. 10 years I competed. And I'll be honest, when I first started competing, I used to be one of them ones that was like, oh, what did they pick that for? Why have they done, I think I'm better than, I think that didn't deserve that score. And I was quite, what's the right word? I can't think of what the right word is, but I was a bit defensive maybe of, okay. And then I realised actually quite early on not to be defensive and use it and take the constructive criticism that the judges were giving me. But I have seen in competitions where judges have marked people like really badly, and it's almost ended them wanting to do nails. So I'm well aware of, being fair. And also when you mark somebody and you score, you have to, if you're standing in front of me and I've just marked your work, I've got to be able to say to you exactly the reasons why I gave you that score and what you can do to improve. And that's what I'm conscious of, very conscious of that. Because I don't just go through and 2, 4, and all, it's not like that. It takes actually a lot of thought and a lot of consideration, and I love it, but it's a lot of pressure because you think, well, you could have some angry people on your door like when you finished. But as long as you can justify and you can see the reasons why, and you can explain that, in a way that you can relay back to a competitor so they can take that on board and go away and improve on that skill. For me, it's another part of teaching, isn't it? It's like another part of education because it's free. When you get feedback from a judge, it's free. And that's how I got into competing, was because I couldn't afford classes. So I was like, it's £25 to enter this comp. If I go and enter that, I'm going to get feedback from some of the country's best nail techs, and they're going to tear my nails apart. Not literally, but they're going to give me the feedback that I need to go back and improve, because I couldn't afford a £150 course. So £25 to me at the time when my kids were young was better for me, because that's what I wanted, was the feedback. And I got the bug. I loved competing, basically. It wasn't then just that. I was like, I've got to compete because I love it. I love the whole adrenaline rush, I think, and stuff like that. But yeah, it's judging is very, very rewarding as well, because when you see what comes through, oh my God, now Olympia online, some of that work was just out of this world. And as well, there was so much there that you could see. I wish I could talk to every single competitor, because little tweaks and little hints and tips that I can help them with to make it better for next time. I'd love to be able to do that, but it's impossible when you've got 150 people in one category online. It's impossible to do that. But that's why I prefer what I call the live competitions. Like if you go to London Nail Olympia, the buzz and the excitement and being able to speak to people and see people is, I think it's part of our industry. It's hands-on, and we're people, we love talking. And I think that's what I've missed most. It's like me and you talking. It's just, I miss that a lot, so much. I've been locked away in my house for nearly a year. It's crazy.
Yeah, that's the thing. I think that should come back, like that person-to-person interaction, especially in the nail competitions. And with Nail Olympia online, that was a fun experience because it was my first time competing at the time. And I placed third in
You
my
done well.
thank you. I placed third in my division. I was in Division 1 and it was the flat art box. And I was like, wow, like I was so surprised that I placed, you know what I mean? So, but I got so much inspiration from a lot of people, with my first time competing. So it's an incredible experience to compete and have that
Yeah.
feel of what it's like to compete in different categories. And there's a guy that got a lot of trophies, and his name is Mino Vo, and he's in London. And I was like,
I
wow,
know Mina.
that's incredible. I was so inspired by his work. His work is amazing. My goodness.
I met him properly probably just over a year ago. He come on some training with me, and I knew then, with the way he was talking and his dedication, he's very passionate. You could tell he was going to go far, and I'm sure there's still a lot of stuff out there for him. He's very passionate, and his nails are out of this world. So yeah, he's still got a lot more to do, I'm sure. Watch this space. he's
Yeah.
gonna do well.
Yeah, I believe so too, most definitely. His artistry is out of this world. It's amazing. Now, I wanted to ask you about what was your first time competing like, and what was that category, if you can remember?
I can remember, and it wasn't the best experience. I was so nervous, and you don't know what you're doing, and you read through all these rules, and you probably know from Nail Olympia online, like trying to read the rules and then look at the score sheets, and sometimes you look and you think that doesn't make sense. They're asking for this here, and they're saying this here, and you have to try and figure out what you can do, what you can't do, and all of that. And
Right, exactly.
yeah, it's quite an art in itself, like reading the rules and the score sheets and understanding what exactly is wanted. And we didn't have proper competition classes then. There wasn't many people around that did it. But I remember, and it was a category, I think it was in 2009 I did it, so a long time ago. It makes me sound really old. It was a category called Fancy French. It was one of my first ones I ever done. And I went in, I'd read the rules. I'm a stickler for rules. And I went in and I did it. And I bloody won. And I was like, how? Like my very first, I was like, no way. And yeah. And it was kind of, I'm not putting myself down, but it was kind of by default. One of the top girls at the time that was, I had no idea that this happened, by the way. In the UK, there used to be different, a bit like the Nail Pro Cup, there was different places that you went and competed and you added up your points and you've become the UK champion. And I wasn't aware of this. And bless her, there'd been a rule change and she hadn't looked at the rule and she just did what she normally did. And I beat her and it didn't go down very well. I won't go into too much detail, but I did get some abuse afterwards, not from her, but from some people around her. And it wasn't the most pleasant experience, if I'm being completely honest. It's the first time I've actually really spoke about it. But for me, it was just, that was my first experience of the positive and how high you can be from winning, and also the negativity that can come with stuff from winning. As well. There is, unfortunately, there is both sides, and both sides aren't often talked about. But I was on a high. I was like, this is great. I can't believe I've won my first comp. But then you think, I've got to do this all again next year. And it's like, And I'll be completely honest, and I've always said I was very naive, maybe. And I just carried on. I didn't practice that much. I went the next year and I got 12th the following year in the same category. And it was that made me realise that if I wanted to compete, I did need to practice. I did need to take the criticism and the feedback that I got from judges. And I did need to continue with doing as many classes that I could to improve myself. And it was that point that it was more like a competition with myself. because I didn't want to let myself down again. And I was like, you can do better than this. And I had these little goals basically every year that I would beat what I did the year before. And like I say, it did become an obsession though. I continue to compete every year, about 3 or 4 times a year for 10 years. Yeah. So it was, but I did enjoy it. Again, for me, it was when I was creating my pieces or practicing, it was my time for me away from the everyday life and, you know, salon work and children and being a mom and, you know, all of that. It was just that little bit of time I had for me. Yeah. And I just become obsessed. I was obsessed with competing and beating myself and other people. You know, I'm not going to sit here and lie. There's other people that you look up to in competitions and you like, I want to be able to do what they do. And I don't think that's a bad thing. And I wanted to achieve the sort of skill level and stuff that they had as well. And it does spur you on if you're that type of person. Not everyone's competitive, but I guess I didn't realize I was until a few years ago, but I really am. I'm very competitive.
Plus, like, you learn from different, you know, nail artists and stuff like that. And the critiques are a good thing because it helps you become better with your craft and honing your talent a bit more. So yeah, I'm glad that, you know, we all get critiques from the judges saying like, okay, this is what needs to be improved, or this is what you were good at, you know, so that way you understand, you know, what to improve and, you know, things.
It can be difficult though, can't it? Taking that criticism, because you kind of feel like, oh, you know, they think that I'm not good enough and all that. And once you get past that though, and you actually realize that they're doing it because they want to help you get better and they can see that you can be better and you can do it, you just need somebody to show you sometimes because you don't always see it yourself. And we're all on different journeys and on different paths, and you know, we all achieve different things and get to the stage that we want at different points. And that's why we should never, I always say to my students, you know, you shouldn't compare yourselves to me. I'm 16 years into my career. You're only a year. You will, if you want to achieve and have the skills, you know, that say I've got, you absolutely can do that. This is what you need to do to get there. This is what it takes. And I can help, I'll help anybody do it. And I think that's the good thing now is with the internet and social media and all this other stuff, we can get to meet people, we can do Zoom calls, we can do training online, we can help so many more people achieve their dreams and goals, whatever that might be, whether it's opening a salon or just, you know, working in, you know, the session world or doing photographic work or competitions or just improving on their salon work. You know, it's so available for all of us more than ever before.
Yeah, I could definitely agree. And I did an interview with Liv Simmons like late last year. And she said, you know, in terms of competing, even if you don't place, you know, don't feel, you know, embarrassed. Don't feel, you know, upset that you didn't place. So always look for the silver lining. Like, what did you learn? Like, what's the whole takeaway from it?